Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast, which is episode 148, is entitled Why Businesses and Monarchies Ignore Signs of Obsolescence. Have you ever wondered why businesses sometimes ignore the clear signs of obsolescence? Businesses generally, but in particular, when a monarchy refuses to see the signs, or worse, knows the signs are there, but they ignore all indicators, because they believe that they are anointed and that they will exist forever. Most monarchies have now gone, and the few that remain, less than 15 or so, will also at some point disappear too. My personal opinion is that no modern society needs a monarchy. The UK monarchy is propped up by a Royal Rota propaganda team who exist to prop up a monarchy. Both groups need the other, and if one goes, they both eventually will fall. What are the ramifications, if any, of a monarchy falling? In the climate of the world right now, with right-wing becoming prominent and dictatorial presidency in the USA now, who would have thought? A USA president working with leaders of nations who obliterate human life without a pause or afterthought. The UK monarchy is white supremacist in history, and nothing has changed, no matter how much they try and talk their way out of that stance. Every time they are around people of colour, let alone should one ever enter the royal family, the true colours come out. I see all monarchies as obsolete in the coming years, not centuries. The UK one refuses to accept the inevitable, and should really be out of the door already. All businesses who ignore the signs of the end is nigh, all fail eventually. Think of the Swiss watch industry. They thought they would be around forever. Digital watches removed that belief and never look back. What is on the horizon for worldwide monarchies, and in particular the UK one? Most of their time is spent trying to destroy the two that walked away from the abuse in the British royal family. When each attempt falls flat on its face, the British royal family then try and copy the two that escaped from the plantation behind gilded gates. The monarchy always falls in those attempts to copy and paste Harry and Meghan, and in doing so, whilst looking foolish from start to finish. The embarrassment of having a monarchy that spends most of its days doing nonsense like that clearly gives the message that core tasks are non-existent. It is all performative, or trying to destroy anyone who dares to walk away from the cult. Make no mistake, the British royal family is a cult. If you do a simple comparison of a cult and its rules and behaviours, if someone tries to leave, and then compare it to the royal family, you will see the similarities. In my opinion, in times of crisis around the globe, time and funding could be better spent uplifting those who need a helping hand, rather than pander to a group on the excuse of it is tradition and it provides stability, etc. Republic, the organisation, are getting stronger and certainly have more than 50% support. It is the establishment and the powerful UK media that is keeping this clown show on the road. Frustrating does not begin to cover it. Here are some key bullet points on why businesses and monarchies ignore the clear signs of obsolescence, along with ramifications in today's global climate. Why businesses and monarchies ignore signs of obsolescence. Delusions of permanence. Institutions that have existed for centuries assume that they are untouchable and will last forever. Structural inertia. Large organisations struggle to adapt due to deeply entrenched systems, bureaucracy, and resistance to change. Fear of losing power. Acknowledging obsolescence means admitting vulnerability, which threatens those in control. Dependence on propaganda. The UK monarchy, like outdated businesses, relies on a loyal media, Royal Rota, to maintain public perception and suppress dissent. Echo chambers and confirmation bias. Insulated institutions surround themselves with supporters who reinforce their relevance, blocking out external critiques. Financial dependence. Monarchies and outdated businesses have ecosystems of dependence, staff, media, corporations that resist change to preserve their own interests. Weaponization of tradition. They justify their existence by claiming historical or cultural significance, even when the modern world has outgrown them. Deflecting and scapegoating. Instead of addressing decline, they focus on external threats. For example, the UK monarchy fixates on destroying the Sussexes rather than modernising. Performative relevance. They stage superficial reinventions. One example, staged public engagements to appear modern while maintaining the same outdated structures. Survival over public good. When institutions prioritise self-preservation over societal progress, they become parasitic rather than contributory. What happens when a monarchy falls in today's climate? Shift in power structures. The monarchy is an anchor for the establishment. Its fall could weaken other elite power structures in media, politics, and finance. Loss of control over national narrative. Without a monarchy to distract and shape national identity, governments and media would struggle to maintain control. Rise of republicanism. The UK and other remaining monarchies face increasing calls for abolition as the public sees them as relics rather than stabilisers. economic and political repercussions. While monarchists argue they bring economic value, their fall would shift national investments towards more tangible public benefits. Exposure of white supremacist foundations. The monarchy's historical role in colonialism and racial hierarchy would face intensified scrutiny and demand for accountability. Unmasking media complicity. The fall of the monarchy would cripple UK media institutions that have long profited from royal coverage and propaganda. Impact on Commonwealth nations. Remaining Commonwealth realms would accelerate their departure, fully severing colonial ties. Global power shifts. With rising authoritarianism, monarchy abolition could spark debates about democratic accountability versus unchecked power in other nations. Strategic exploitation by right-wing forces. With a monarchy gone, right-wing nationalists may attempt to co-opt national identity for their own political gains. Opportunity for real reform. Resources and public focus could shift towards urgent societal needs: healthcare, education, social justice, rather than upholding an elite family. Monarchy versus cult dynamics. Punishment for leaving. Excommunicated members, e.g. Harry and Meghan, are demonised, much like cult defectors. Total control over image. The monarchy, like a cult, manages its image through carefully curated propaganda. Isolation and dependency. Royals are kept financially and socially dependent to prevent them from leaving easily. Rigid hierarchies. Strict pecking orders dictate who holds power and who must submit. Fear-based loyalty. Members are warned that leaving equals exile, disgrace, or worse. The future of the UK monarchy. Declining public support. Pro-monarchy sentiment is artificially propped up. Independent polling shows increasing indifference or opposition. Republicanism will prevail. With younger generations rejecting the monarchy, its fall is a matter of when, rather than if. Dwindling global relevance. The UK monarchy is becoming irrelevant on the world stage, losing influence even within the Commonwealth. Survival by distraction. The more they try to undermine the Sussexes or manufacture scandals, the more they expose their own fragility. History's verdict. Monarchies are obsolete in democratic societies. It's only a matter of time before even the last remnants disappear. My instincts tell me that the monarchy is a failing business model, propped up by an establishment afraid of losing power. The frustration I feel is shared by many who recognise the absurdity of maintaining an outdated system while the world faces real crises. It is time to embark on serious discussions in Parliament as the cracks in the UK monarchy are more visible than ever. Here is a structured outline on the obsolescence of the UK monarchy and its refusal to acknowledge its decline. The structure tries, wherever possible, to ensure logical progression, compelling arguments, and strong conclusions. The inevitable obsolescence of monarchy. Why the UK monarchy refuses to see the signs, and what comes next. Monarchies, historically, are fading from existence. The UK monarchy, as one of the last major institutions, is clinging to outdated power. The monarchy is an obsolete institution propped up by media and establishment interests, refusing to accept its inevitable end. We should be having discussions now in Parliament about this matter against the backdrop of global instability, rising authoritarianism, and public disillusionment. Let's have a brief look at the business of monarchy and why institutions ignore obsolescence. Delusions of permanence. Long-standing institutions believe they are immune to collapse. The propaganda machine. The UK monarchy is sustained by a dedicated media network, Royal Rota, that ensures it remains relevant. Fear of losing power. Institutions resist acknowledging decline because it threatens their privileged status. Comparisons with business failures. How industries, for example the Switch watchmakers versus digital technology, ignored disruption and paid the price. The cult-like nature of the British royal family. Control over members, punishment for defection, and maintaining a false image. 2. The role of the establishment in protecting a dying monarchy. The interdependence of monarchy and media. Both need each other for survival. If one collapses, the other follows. Financial and political interests. The monarchy secures the elite's influence over national identity and power structures. Weaponization of tradition. Using the past to justify its existence while ignoring changing societal values. The Sussex effect. How attacking those who left Harry and Meghan exposes the institution's obsession with control and desperation to maintain relevance. 3. the global political climate and the fall of the monarchy, the rise of right-wing authoritarianism, how global shifts in power might accelerate or delay the monarchy's fall, the UK monarchy's colonial and white supremacist legacy, its historical and ongoing entanglement with racism, Commonwealth nations cutting ties, the wave of republicanism sweeping through former British colonies, potential Republican transition in the UK, how and when it could happen, with Republic gaining over 50% public support. What happens after a monarchy falls? Political, economic, and social ramifications in an unstable world. 4. The case for abolition, a more just and modern society. Reallocation of resources, redirecting taxpayer money toward public services instead of royal excess. Abolishing the royal rota and media propaganda machine. Ending monarchy-driven misinformation campaigns. Democratising the UK political system. The monarchy's fall as a catalyst for broader institutional reform. Symbolism and justice. Dismantling the last remnant of feudalism to create a more equal society. Conclusion. The monarchy's refusal to acknowledge its obsolescence accelerates its downfall. Business history, global politics, and changing public opinion all point toward an inevitable Republican future. The UK's monarchy's desperate attempts to remain relevant are not just embarrassing but dangerous, as they distract from real global issues. Call to action. Encouraging awareness, advocacy, and informed public discourse about what comes next. Case studies are always powerful to quote. Facts are facts. Case studies add weight to the argument by showing that monarchies and businesses that ignored warning signs inevitably all collapsed. Here are a few case studies that strengthen my belief and which are also grouped by theme. Case studies of institutional decline and the inevitable fall of monarchies. This first group relates to business case studies, institutions that ignored the signs of obsolescence. These cases demonstrate how businesses that refused to evolve ultimately failed, a parallel to monarchies refusing to modernise. First case, the Swiss watch industry versus digital disruption. Context. Swiss watchmakers dominated global markets for centuries, believing their craftsmanship made them irreplaceable. Warning signs ignored. The rise of quartz and digital watches. For example, Seiko's Quartz Astron 1969 was dismissed as a fad. The fall. By the 1980s, Swiss watch exports plummeted by 66%, and brands collapsed before a forced reinvention. Monarchy parallel. The UK monarchy refuses to modernise, really modernise, assuming it will always be in demand, despite younger generations losing interest. Second case study, Kodak and the digital camera revolution. Context. Kodak was a photography giant, but ignored the rise of digital cameras. Warning signs ignored. The company itself invented the first digital camera in 1975, but dismissed it, fearing it would cannibalize film sales. The fall. By 2010 onwards, Kodak was bankrupt, as digital photography became the standard. Monarchy parallel. The monarchy refuses to embrace real reform, clinging to outdated traditions instead of adapting to public expectations. Our third case study, Blockbuster versus Netflix. Context. Blockbuster dominated the video rental industry, but ignored streaming technology. Warning signs ignored. Netflix offered to partner with Blockbuster in 2000, but Blockbuster laughed at the idea. The fall. Blockbuster collapsed in 2010 as Netflix became a global giant. Monarchy parallel. The monarchy ignores public discontent, thinking it will always have relevance, even as alternative governance models, republicanism, grow stronger. Our second section, monarchies that fell due to their obsolescence. These monarchies ignored signs of decline, refused reform, and ultimately collapsed. So our first case study, in terms of monarchies as opposed to businesses and the previous section, goes as follows. The French monarchy, 1789. And as most of you will know, newcomers may not, most of you know that we did a couple of podcasts on the French monarchy. So some of these things will definitely ring a bell. Context. France's monarchy was one of the most powerful in Europe, deeply tied to divine right and aristocratic rule. Warning signs ignored. Economic hardship, public anger over inequality, and Enlightenment ideals of democracy spread, but the monarchy refused reform. The fall. The French Revolution led to the monarchy's complete abolition, with King Louis executed in 1793. Lessons for the UK monarchy. Ignoring public discontent and hoarding wealth while the people struggle fuels revolution. Our second monarchy case study. The Russian monarchy, 1917. Context. The Romanov dynasty ruled Russia for over 300 years. Warning signs ignored. Economic crises, failed wars, and mass unrest were met with suppression, rather than reform. The fall. The 1917 Russian Revolution led to Tsar Nicholas II's abdication and later execution. Lessons for the UK monarchy. When a ruling family loses touch with the struggles of the people, revolution follows. Third monarchy case study. The German monarchy, 1918. Context. Kaiser William II ruled Germany during World War I. Warning signs ignored. Rising socialist movements, economic struggles, and war exhaustion went unaddressed. The fall. The monarchy collapsed after Germany's defeat in World War I, paving the way for the Weimar Republic. Lessons for the UK monarchy. External crises, wars, economic turmoil accelerate the fall of obsolete institutions. As a reminder of the headings of the previous sections, Section 1 was business case studies, institutions that ignored the signs of obsolescence. And I gave some examples of cases who demonstrated how businesses that refused to evolve ultimately failed, such as the watch industry. The second section was monarchies that fell due to their own obsolescence, and there were some examples of different monarchies, and with each monarchy we went through context, the warning signs that were ignored, the fall of that monarchy, and lessons for the UK monarchy. This third section, modern signs of monarchy decline. And these case studies focus on recent trends and how modern monarchies are losing ground. Like the previous two sections, each of these monarchies that we talk about in these case studies follow the same framework of context, warning signs ignored, the fall, and lessons for the UK monarchy. So our first one in this section, the fall of the Greek monarchy, 1973. Context. Greece had a monarchy for much of its modern history, but struggled with political instability. Warning signs ignored. Public opposition grew due to corruption, military rule, and lack of democratic reform. The fall. In a 1974 referendum abolished the monarchy, with over 69% voting for a republic. Lessons for the UK monarchy. A sudden crisis, economic collapse, scandal, exposure of corruption can trigger a swift end. The next case study. The Caribbean nations cutting ties with the British monarchy. Context. Former British colonies in the Caribbean are rejecting the monarchy in increasing numbers. Barbados, in 2021, officially removed the Queen as head of state. Jamaica, up-and-coming referendum is likely to follow. Lessons for the UK monarchy. The Commonwealth is shrinking, signalling the monarchy's global irrelevance. Section 4. The Republican movement in the UK. Growing public support for abolition. Over 50% of Britons now favour a republic, especially among younger generations. Media's role in propping up the monarchy. The Royal Rota manufactures consent, but its influence is waning. The Sussex effect. The monarchy's obsession with discrediting Harry and Meghan exposes its weakness rather than its strength. Conclusion. The last days of the monarchy. History shows that no institution lasts forever. The UK monarchy ignores clear warning signs at its own peril. Business failures, past monarchies, and modern political trends all indicate the same fate. The monarchy is running out of time. The only question left is how and when it will finally fall. Conclusion. Things generally come full circle, but those affected often try to ignore the inevitable. I think the UK family is refusing to face facts. And here I am referring to the British royal family. And to close this week's podcast, history has a way of circling back, and those clinging to outdated power structures often resist the truth until it's too late. The UK monarchy is no exception, and its refusal to adapt only accelerates its decline. That's it from me for this week. I hope you found that of interest. I thought it useful to put case studies at the end, so for those who may be in denial about some of the points made earlier on in the podcast, I felt was useful to make linkages between theory and real life. So by having case studies there relating to different monarchies and different parts of the world, made the point. Let's hope that our British royal family is listening and reading, and for the first time in its life, taking notice. So, look forward to your comments, as per usual. So it's bye from me. Bye from Ivy. Bye.
Some